doing is just showing you, first of all, how an ordinary watch would have to be modified to make it an automatic, and then we'll go on and we'll strip down the automatic work and put it back again. The rest of the watch, as you'll see when you do the watch, is the same as a non-automatic watch. Now the automatic watch works on the pendulum principle. That is a weight free to swing about an axis, not passing through its centre of gravity. So in fact, if I tilt this watch up, and then turn the watch, we should see the oscillating weight always coming towards the bottom of the watch, like so. So in the centre there, the oscillating weight has a series of reduction gears that eventually drives the ratchet wheel for winding the watch. Now, the oscillating weight turns through part of or a complete circle, and on different watches it can wind in one direction only, or it can wind in both directions. The winding is effected through an automatic train, which is usually mounted over the time train, and as we've already said, drives the ratchet wheel through a series of reduction gears. There are a few models around, like Biren I think it is, where the reduction train is actually down inside the movement beside the ordinary time train, but mostly there's an extra bridge and wheels mounted above the normal train of the watch. Now, patents for making a watch, an automatic watch, do vary, but just to generalise, the following have got to be given careful consideration. For example, the end of the mainspring has to have special consideration. If the mainspring were conventional, then of course damage would be caused to the end of the mainspring, because once the watch is fully wound, either the end of the mainspring would be pulled out, or teeth would be torn off of wheels. So we need to have some form of slipping arrangement on the mainspring, and so the most common way of dealing with that is to have a mainspring terminating in about 1.5 inches of stiff mainspring, and then when the ordinary watch mainspring is fully wound, that stiffer piece of spring starts to slip around the inside wall of the barrel, and so prevents damage to the train and damage to the end of the mainspring. So it's important, very important, that the inside wall of the barrel is lubricated. Now we need an additional ratchet or some means to prevent the mainspring from driving the oscillating weight. For example, when you're winding by hand, as you know, you can get quite a considerable turn of the button before the click drops from one tooth into the next. You have a recoiling click. So it takes, I don't know, perhaps 30, perhaps 45, perhaps even 90 degrees turn of the button before the click actually drops into the next space, and then the winding button drops back slightly. So if you had a small movement of the oscillating weight, then the ratchet wheel is partially wound. If the click hasn't dropped into a new tooth, as soon as the watch is moved to a different position, the oscillating weight will kick back again. So what we need to do is incorporate some arrangement, some sort of click arrangement, whereby although the main ratchet might not have dropped into place, there will be another ratchet to hold the automatic reduction gear in what will effectively be a partial state of mind. The oscillating weight turns, in this instance, in two directions, and by a complete turn. So we need some means of converting a two-directional rotor into a unidirectional ratchet wheel. We'll see how that's done later on. In fact, it's done through these two wheels in here. And finally, we need to give some consideration to the clutch wheel and winding pinion. This is because if you think about it, if the automatic gear train is winding the ratchet wheel, then engaged directly with the ratchet wheel, that is, then the ratchet wheel, of course, is engaged with the crown wheel, so that will also be turning. And if the crown wheel is turning, it means that the winding pinion is turning. And if the winding pinion is turning, then either the clutch wheel will be turning, or alternatively, if it's winding in the opposite direction, there will be slipping between the clutch wheel and the winding pinion. If you have a stiff yoke spring, then you have quite a high frictional loss there, and it may in fact prevent the water from winding. So we need to consider giving the yoke a weak spring so that we don't have the high frictional losses. So those are some of the considerations that we've got to give to the design of our watch. Now we'll get on and actually start thinking about dismantling this one. When you're dismantling an automatic watch, it's best to remove the power by, first of all, removing the automatic work, knowing that the main click may drop back by as much as a complete tooth, but that won't do anything any harm, won't do the watch any harm, won't do the automatic train any harm. But an alternative method would be to remove the balance cock, the balance and the pallets, and let the watch run down that way. I wouldn't normally favour that way. And in fact, very often you've got to remove the automatic work to even remove the balance cock and remove the pallets. But in some instances, that is an option, remove the pallets, let the power in. Anyway, to come to our actual watch now then, the automatic work is kept in this instance, and this is quite common, by one screw just there and a second screw just over there. At the moment, if we look at the oscillating weight there and the oscillating weight axle, there is no obvious means of removing the oscillating weight from the oscillating weight axle. So that tells me that almost certainly there will be some means of removing it accessible from underneath. So we've got to take off the complete works anyway. Now these two screws that we're going to remove there and over here, on Etta watches they are very often coloured blue to distinguish them from other screws in the watch. I notice in this particular watch that they're still polished steel, the same as the other screws. If you want to turn the oscillating weight to observe the action, it would be better to use a piece of pigment for that rather than a tweezers, because tweezers tends to scratch the metal. So let's start off then by removing the first screw. Then move the oscillating weight to give us access to the other screw, and then remove the second screw. A word of warning about screws on automatic watches. You need to be very careful with the screws because with the extra train there's extra wheels, there's extra screws, but the extra height involves means that the difference between screws or screw lengths can be very subtle, and it's very, very easy to put a screw back in the wrong place. And on many automatic watches you'll find the barrel very often is pot-marked, little dents, and that's where previous repairers have put the wrong screw in a bridge. It's been a little bit too long, it's screwed straight down into the barrel. So it is very important to watch, particularly your screw lengths. When you load your cleaning basket, try and put the screw with the appropriate part, and hopefully it won't change compartment during cleaning. So now lift off the automatic work, and the worst that should happen is that the ratchet wheel drops back by possibly as much as one, but probably by part of a tooth. That's the automatic watch removed, and what we have here now is an ordinary watch, and in this particular instance you'll find that the ratchet, instead of operating directly on the ratchet wheel, the ratchet is operating on the crown wheel. With most automatic watches anyway, even with the automatic work in place, the watch can be wound manually in the usual way. Seiko are different. With lots of Seiko watches, they cannot be manually wound. When you're repairing the watches, to test the watch, you wind the ratchet wheel probably with a screwdriver to start the winding off. But with this particular watch, then it can be manually wound or wound automatically as you like. Anyway, there's the ratchet working directly on the crown wheel. So we won't be dealing with this part of the watch because that's treated just like an ordinary 15-year legal watch. So there's the automatic work. And a view of the other side. Now you notice on this side there are just two wheels, and in that particular view now, if we get the angle just right, what I'm trying to give you is a view of the screw in the centre there.
Yeah, see that. Yeah, it's okay.
Yeah. And the slot in the screw. You just unscrew that screw to remove the oscillating weight. But it's a little bit difficult to get you a...
Yeah, we can see that.
Okay. So to come back to the opposite side then, we have two wheels on this side and two wheels on the other side. Now, these two wheels here are a double wheel. There's one wheel on top of the other. And you notice there is what appears to be a screw just there. And you might be able to see that the one half of the screw has a little skirt around it, and the other half of the screw doesn't. Now, this skirted part just here is actually lying between the two wheels there and the two wheels there, preventing this from lifting off. In actual fact, I think it might be better if I remove the oscillating weight next one, or the oscillating weight first. Then we can see things a little bit more clearly. So for that, turn the automatic work over, and then using an appropriate size screwdriver, simply unscrew the screw in the middle. screw, the plate with the wheels, and that's the oscillating weight. We can probably get a better view of the screw. I'm not going to. But, yeah. You put the screw to one side. The oscillating weight. If I move this, we might be able to get that into view. And you can see the teeth in the centre. Those are the teeth that are going to drive the wheels. And as we've already said, we have a series of reduction gears.
Is it actually fixed to the weight?
It's actually fixed.
And the bearings are inside there?
Yes.
They're actually part of the weight?
Yeah. Normally, do not attempt to strip the bearings, especially on some of these. You'll find there are roller or ball bearings. Yeah. Never ever attempt to strip those because the well, it's one of these sealed units, and they're best not disturbed.
But you do get wear on the pinion, presumably.
You can get wear on the post. When in other watches you find that the oscillating weight will operate here in the middle.
Yeah.
On here, they operate on a post. Right, and
that looks like the sealed bearing.
Yeah, but on the watches where you have an actual post rather than what we have there, you see the hole through the middle.
Yeah.
Well, the post is more that sort of diameter, right. And you can get the bearing or the post worn, and a sign of that is that around the back of the watch, around here, you get the plating of the watch worn off and the brass of the plate exposed. Yeah. And that's a sign that either the screw for the oscillating weight has come loose, yeah, or that the bearing is worn. Yeah. And if it is a worn bearing, then it's not worth repairing. You will get either a new oscillating weight axle or a new oscillating weight, or both.
Because I mean, it's quite a heavy weight, really, isn't it?
It is.
Relative to the
yes.
size of the watch.
Yes. Right, now let's bring our focus back again to these two wheels. As we already said, there are two wheels there, and there are two wheels there. And they're held in because this skirted screw has the skirt lying between the two wheels there and between the two wheels there. But there's a flat that's facing outwards here at the moment. Yeah. So we're going to turn that screw so that flat is opposite that wheel, then the wheel will lift off. Then we'll turn that screw further so that the flat is opposite this wheel, and then that will lift off. Now I'm using the word screw. In actual fact, there isn't a thread there. That screw is a friction fit in the plate. So although we're turning it, it's not unscrewing. So I'm going to drop that down onto the bench, and I'm going to turn that screw, but might not.
Are they common faults with the automatic mechanism, or are they normally okay?
These wheels are normally fine. Yeah. Normally fine, yeah. Just before I move them, there's one or two things that I could be pointing out to you. And that is, if we look at it from the other side now, on this side also we have two wheels. The wheel that the tweezer is touching at the moment has a pinion, a fairly large pinion, that engages with, in this instance, the ratchet wheel for winding the watch. The two wheels on this side, one will have a pinion and the other won't. And it's that distinguishes which way around we fit them when we put them back again. One of those two wheels, in fact, it's this one. that wheel there will have a pinion on the bottom for driving that wheel there. And then that wheel there will have a pinion on the bottom to drive this one. This pinion, which is the largest pinion, drives the ratchet wheel. So let's pop that down a minute, and we'll turn the screw. Doesn't matter which direction the screw is turned in, but I'm turning the screw now. So that now the flat there now is opposite that wheel there. So that wheel should now come off. I'd have to turn it over to let it drop off. There we are. So that's one of the wheels removed. So now it's a matter of turning that screw until the bit with a missing skirt is opposite the other wheel.
Yep.
So once again, turn the screw. Okay, and now in fact that wheel will come off. Once again, it's easier to just turn that over and it drops off. So there's the plate empty on that side now. Now you notice that there are two posts there, so those two wheels didn't have pivots. They fitted down over a post, or over posts.
So the next wheel had a pinion, but the second wheel had a pinion at the bottom driving the
That's right.
third
So
wheel.
this wheel here, let's get about as close as I can drive in on it. And get the light right on it. Great difficulty getting the light on it to show the pinion.
So it seems to be wanting to focus on the other one. Got on the paper.
I just can't get the angle quite right.
I saw the pinion. Yeah, there you can see
Yeah,
the
I
pinion
can just
there.
about see the pinion
That's
there
it,
now.
yeah.
And of course the other side. That's the side that was facing up. And you notice that here there are two jewels, one there, one down there, and you can see two little pivots in those jewels. There's a little arm in there which is going to make sure that we get the drive right. These two wheels are responsible for having a two-directional rotor to give a unidirectional push to the reduction train. The principle of operation there can be read up in the book entitled Swiss Self-Winding Watches by a chap called Humbert.
That's the one that I've got.
Yeah, it's the Bible on automatic watches, and there's a good explanation there as to how the two-directional oscillating weight can be used to get a unidirectional turn of the ratchet wheel. and then the other wheel I'm going to turn the camera off of automatic focus and get it on manual, and I think it'll and on this side no pinion, on that side no pinion, but again you can see the two jewels, the two pivots, and at the bottom of your picture you can just about see an arm through the two little holes. Inside there are a number of pillars, and there are a couple of arms in there which are all part of the mechanism to make sure winding occurs in one direction. In fact, you'll want to test, there's a little test that you want to make on these wheels, and the test is, and I think I'll have to put this onto automatic focus again for this. Right, the test is to hold the wheel, the bottom wheel. It's going to be difficult. I can do it this way. Make sure that while you hold the bottom wheel there, that the top wheel will turn in one direction but not the other. In fact, this is the pinion that doesn't have the wheel that doesn't have the pinion at the bottom, and this one, the top wheel will turn anti-clockwise quite comfortably, but not clockwise. So there it is, turning anti-clockwise but not clockwise, and that's showing you that these little levers inside here are working correctly in conjunction with the posts. So that wheel has passed its test, that's okay. That one can be cleaned and later on put back in the watch.
You wouldn't consider stripping any of these wheels?
No, they can't be stripped, they're sealed units. Right. If there's anything wrong with the wheel, then you replace the whole wheel. Yeah. Now we're going to test the other one. And once again, a bit of jog getting it into view, there we are. And this one will turn anti-clockwise. Sorry, will turn clockwise,
That's it.
but not anti-clockwise. So that one has passed its test. That's the one with the pinion. So we can put both of those wheels quite safely through the cleaning machine and be fairly confident that they'll come out fully functional. Now we'll turn our attentions to the other part, and here you can see that we have two wheels. They both have pinions, but it's the larger pinion there that engages with the ratchet wheel, and to hold those in we have a bar here coming across. You can just see a screwdriver slot in it there. So we insert a screwdriver into that slot. That one's a little bit too big. Wouldn't help that, I think. Question of getting the light right so that you can see it. Just put a screwdriver into there, and I've turned the bar now through something like 90 degrees. And there you can see the bar now at the bottom of the picture. And now just pick off the two wheels. So that one will just lift off, and same with the other one. And once again, they don't work on pivots. As you can see from the picture there, they work on posts. Now leave this turn as it is. Just a waste of effort to try and move it. And pop that in the cleaning machine. In fact, if we lay out all of the parts of the automatic work, there they are. That's the entire ensemble.
Doesn't look a lot though, does it?
Doesn't look a lot.
No.
Quite simple, quite straightforward. And most of them are. Most automatic watches are.
Are they all on the same sort of principle? Because I've seen one that's got like a rocking.
Well, the
mechanism
principles are the
instead.
same, but it's just this is what I was saying earlier on about patents varying.
Yeah.
They do vary. The principles are still the same.
Mm-hmm.
So you, by principles I mean slipping ends to mainsprings, an alternative means of holding the automatic work in a partial state of wind when looking at the ratchet wheel. In other words, the ratchet wheel can lock when the ratchet is only partway through winding on one tooth. The principles are the same in
One-way or two-way drive.
well, I was thinking of the winding work then, perhaps consideration being given to the clutch wheel and winding wheel, as I say. But other watches, for example, although the oscillating axle might turn in both directions, winding occurs in one only. With other watches, like for example, there's a caliber of Omega watch, where you have winding operated through a rack and a pinion, and there are buffers on the watch so that the rack can turn through part of a circle, and then we'll hit the buffers. Then we'll come back by part of a circle and hit buffers. And winding is affected that way. So it's still winding in, if I remember right, it's still winding in both directions, but the rotor doesn't make a complete turn.
Do you come across many automatic pocket watches? I was reading about the automatic pocket watch in the sense that they had the weight was oscillating only through part circle up to buffers.
Yes, probably you're thinking of something like the pedometer. I doubt that in 40 years I've actually had more than one or two in for repair. Watches like that would tend to go a bit of a specialist. You know, they're very collectible.
Yeah.
And they tend not to come over the high street counter for repair. So after many, many years of watchmaking, I have no recollection. I don't think I've got a recollection of doing any, in fact. I've done one or two pedometers. In fact, I own one that works on that principle. But I have no clear recollection of one coming over the counter for repair. So you don't see them very often at all, if at all. Right, now what we'll do for a couple of minutes is reassemble this, and then we can look at one or two alternative ways of securing oscillating weights to axles. Already you have a lubrication chart for automatic watches. I've given you a handout on the ETA watch, a particular caliber, and the principles involved there, like the grade and the points for lubrication, are quite transferable. This particular watch is an ETA watch. It's a caliber 2472. So almost certainly the recommendations for lubrication that you've already got are directly transferable to this watch. It might even be this watch that you have, I'm not quite sure. But the principles apply to others. In other words, the lubricant that we use for the oscillating weight axle, the same lubricant could be used on virtually any automatic watch. Right, so to help with reassembly now, I'll put some of these bits to one side. But you can reason this out, and it tells you where all the wheels go. For example, you must have this pinion or a pinion driving the ratchet wheel, and the largest pinion here is this one, the largest of the two. So that's the final reduction gear. And to engage with a pinion, this wheel must be pinion up, as the plate is facing me at the moment. It must be pinion up. And the final reduction gear is on that post there. So the only right place for that is there. Now that wheel is driven by this wheel. This wheel has a pinion, but the only way that pinion can engage with that wheel is that way up and fitting over that post. In other words, pinion down, fitting over that post. So the watch tells you what is needed. Now we close this little piece here to prevent the wheels from coming loose. Say it again?
Could you zoom in?
Yes.
Try it a bit better.
Okay. So what we're going to do now, I don't know if this can get better. There we are. You see it more clearly there now. What we're going to do now is close that little piece there, and it just locks in. When this is fully turned anti-clockwise, it will lock itself up.
It will only turn so far.
It'll only turn so far, yes.
Yeah, it looks as if there's a bit of a bridge that it comes against.
Yeah, you'll find that if I can get this into focus again in a minute. Right, you'll find that that piece there locks into a corner there. Now turn the automatic train bridge over, and we can argue this in a similar way. Now I have a way of remembering which way up these wheels go, and if we look at this side of the wheel, it's rather attractive. It's been plated with a gold colour plating. There are a couple of nice jewels there, and that's a rather an attractive side. If you look at the other side of the wheel, by comparison, this one happens to be polished, but rather uninteresting and dull. And I just remember with all of these watches that it's the attractive side facing up. So that tells me which way both of these two wheels will actually be going back. So that's the attractive side. That is comparatively unattractive, so it's attractive side up. Now we only got to worry about which way around the two go. Well, one has a pinion, the other doesn't, and the one with a pinion has to engage with the reduction train wheel that is visible just there. So this is the one with the pinion. It's pinion down, so having lubricated the posts, all of these wheels will have the post lubricated before the watch is assembled, before the wheels go back in. Now I will need to lock that in. I turn that screw to lock it in. Now replace the other wheel. This one has no pinion. And now turn that screw so that both wheels are now locked in. And make sure that the flat over there is symmetrical with the circle here, so there's no chance of the oscillating weight catching on the screw, and that both wheels are securely locked in. Now put the oscillating weight on the bench, lubricate the axle, replace your wheels and bridge, just rotate the bridge so that you can feel the teeth on the oscillating weight engaging with those reduction gears. And then I would put a little touch of screw underneath the head of a little touch of oil underneath the head of the screw there, and then replace the screw.
So you put a touch of oil on the end of the screw?
Not on the very end, only on the shoulder that is going to act as a bearing.
Oh, I see, yes.
Now before you tighten the screw, just tack it down lightly first and make sure that the bridge is free. Then tighten the screw down and then check again that it's free. Now that's ready for
Out for centre.
Now we're going to put this back into the watch. And very often with automatic watches, in the train there where I'm holding, you get a little hole through there, and very often that hole is associated not so much with the regulators you think it might be, but with the shockproof system. So I'm going to associate that over the shockproof system there, over the interlock.
Oh, yeah.
And then you should find that the bridge will drop down over the steady pins, and just agitate the oscillating weight a little bit as you drop this into position, and you'll find that the final reduction gear will automatically engage nicely with the ratchet wheel. And now drop in the two screws. And that's one dropped in, and initially at least I would only tack the screw down. Turn the weight. Drop the other screw in. Tap that one down. Now make sure that everything is engaged properly before you finally tighten down. Everything is engaged properly. So now finally tighten down. The only thing that we haven't done or covered is the lubrication of the watch. So I did refer you to the ETA handout and said that all of the recommendations there are transferable across, particularly to this watch, because it is an ETA watch. Now, you could wind the watch fully manually. You can usually feel the end of the mainspring slipping around the wall of the barrel. Now that it's wound fully, check that the oscillating weight still prefers the bottom of the watch, and it does. Although it might be a little less free, it should still prefer the bottom of the watch, and it does. That's fine. Now, I think we'll have a look at some alternative ways of locking in the oscillating weights on different watches.
Focusing on that.
we said that we were going to take a look at one or two alternative ways of holding on oscillating weights, and here's one of them. This particular one is to be found on the TISA watch, and on this one we want to just try panning in a little bit closer on it. That's fairly clear now. And with this particular one, all you would do is tuck your tweezers into that hole there and lift this little strip a little bit and slide it backwards or forwards, in fact. No, wait a minute. I have to edit that bit out, I think. In actual fact, you don't need to lift it to take it out at all. You slide that piece forward so that this hole comes over the oscillating weight axle, and then the oscillating weight will lift off. Do you want me to demonstrate it, or
No, I can
it's
see
probably
that.
straightforward?
Does the mechanism then come out and screws again? Is it? The actual-
With this particular one, yeah, there's a screw just there,
Yeah. Fine.
and there might be some of them have 3 screws. Let me just put an eyeglass on it. Yeah, there's a screw there, and a screw over there. There's 3 on this one. It may be that only 2 of them are holding the plate down, and the third one might be holding another bridge underneath. I'm not that intimate with the watch. But anyway. Right.
Yeah, I can see how that operates.
Okay. This is an alternative system. And with this one, we've got a little spring clip in the middle there. And to operate this one, all you need to do is twist that spring clip slightly while you hold the oscillating weight still. So hold that still, twist that slightly, which will expand the clip there, and then that will just lift straight off. So the oscillating weight axle has a little groove, a little channel all the way around. So this spring clip just slots into that channel.
Yeah.
Most of these, in fact, are self-explanatory. This is a nice arrangement. You'll find this on Felsa calibers very often, but you'll find it on others as well. And with this particular system, what you do is you grab hold of that little lever there. That's a little steel lever, and you lift it in this direction, but at the same time push in that direction. In other words, follow that arrow. Come down this way and across that way. This little lever will come down. It will then hinge over, in fact, and that will unlock the oscillating weight. So that again will lift off.
What would you expect to find those on? Is that?
If I remember rightly, those are used on Felsa watches, but I could be wrong. I think they're used on... Well, yes, they are. Yes, there's no question about it. They are used on Felsa watches. One reason I know that for so confidently is that if I can find this in... There we are.
Oh yeah.
Felsa.
Keyboard.
Yes.
That's it.
So we're going to move on now and take a look at striking clocks. And basically there are 2 types of striking clock. There's a rack type striking, and there's a count wheel, sometimes known as locking plate. In fact, probably it's more often known as locking plate and count wheel. With each, in addition to a time train, there's a second train, usually on the left of the time train when viewed from the dial side, called the strike train. The strike train is triggered into action by the time train and causes a hammer here to strike a gong, rod or bell to indicate the correct hour. At the half hour, only one blow may be struck. This is then known as a half-hour strike. As the strike train is relatively fast moving and comes to a sudden stop, a fly is incorporated at the end of the train to control the speed of the strike train and to dissipate the power at the end of striking. Although striking clocks do vary slightly in operation, there are certain principles that remain common to all of them. Each time the strike train is operated, there must be a short run before the hammer starts to lift, and similarly a further slight run after the last blow is struck. To prevent uncertain unlocking of the strike train, a warning is given, which involves a half turn of the warning wheel prior to the eventual release of the train for striking. During this period of warning, the hammer is it's said that the hammer must not be on the rise. That's a term that the hammer being on the rise is a term that we use to indicate that the hammer is being lifted by the hammer lifting wheel. So what we'll do now is we'll get this out of the case. We'll have an overview of how the clock works. Then we'll dismantle it and reassemble it, putting detail on exactly how it works and explain the function of all of the parts. So let's start off by removing the hands. Now normally the minute hand, when it's present, will be kept on either by a nut or it'll be kept on by a taper pin and a washer. So remove the taper pin, remove the washer, lift off the minute hand, and then lift off the hour hand. Now unscrew the nut at the bottom of the clock there that holds the gong in. Removes the nut, removes the washer, and lift out the gong. Now you find that the movement is held in by 4, 6 or 8 screws, so we can now remove the 4, 6 or 8 screws. When you do that, you want to protect the glass by either resting on a cloth, resting on your hand, or resting on your lap. In this particular instance, the glass is compressing, so we needn't be concerned about protecting it. The case is a Bakelite case, so the screws aren't wood screws, but in fact ordinary cheesehead screws in fact. Now lift the movement out, put the case hot tape on one side, that will be required again later. Before we dismantle the movement, we'll just give you an overview as to how it works. This is not intended to be a full explanation, but just an overview. The striking train is on the left, as it usually is, and the time train on the right. The strike train is triggered by two lifters on the back of the cannon pinion. You won't see them in your picture until the hour wheel comes off, but the cannon pinion has two lifters. One high, one low. At the hour and a half hour, the high lifter will lift the lifting piece, which will unlock the strike train, like so, and the warning is now given, and then when the lifting piece drops off of the cam, the train is now free to strike. And once it's finished striking, the train relocks, and in this particular instance the locking occurs by a pin in the warning wheel there, coming up against the warning detent there. The detent is allowed to drop because the rack hook here drops in deeply underneath the rack there, allowing this part of the rack hook to drop into the gap in the gathering path, and then in turn that then allows the detent to drop into the path of the pin. So at half past, no teeth here fall at all. The train is simply unlocked for one revolution of the gathering path wheel. But if we want more than one blow to be struck, we have to hold the rack hook out of engagement for the required number of blows. So to achieve that, we have the rack falling onto a snail here. Now in fact we're on the third step of the snail, which is going to allow 3 teeth to escape on the rack. Now as this can't drop in deeply, because this is dropping the teeth, this can't drop in deeply until all of the teeth are gathered up, allowing this to drop in deeply. So previously this couldn't relock. But now that all of the teeth are gathered up, the rack hook can drop in deeper, and so locking can occur. So the hour wheel carries a snail with 12 steps to correspond with the 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, etc. up to 12 o'clock. At the half hour, only one blow is struck because the low lifter on the cannon pinion operates, and although the strike train is unlocked, no teeth actually escape on the rack, so we might be able to get that happening there. There's the warning, and no teeth dropped, therefore only one blow was struck. Anyway, that's only a brief overview of how the clock works. We'll give a more detailed explanation after we strip the clock and rebuild it. Now, the first thing that you want to do with a clock when you take it out of the case is to remove the suspension spring here. Because it's vulnerable in handling the clock, it's easy to damage the suspension spring. So I would remove it. And that's removed in the same way you would remove any pin, and that is by pressing on one side of the pin with a suitable tool, loosening the pin, and then drawing the pin out, and then put the pin to one side. In this instance, the suspension spring just dropped out. That's understandable. But if it doesn't, just lift the suspension spring